The American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculator.
What if I told you that the money in your pocket is built on a lie? A lie that began in a quiet television broadcast. A lie so powerful, it changed how the world works forever. This is not a theory. It's not a guess. It's history, and you've been living in its shadow. This is the story of the day the dollar died, and no one noticed. But before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Chapter 1. The Day the Dollar Became a Lie. On August 15th, 1971, everything changed. August 15th, 1971. On this day, the world woke up to a quiet betrayal. A betrayal not by armies or empires, but by money itself. Without warning, President Richard Nixon appeared on national television.
Good evening.
His words were calm, but the meaning behind them would ripple through decades.
I have spoken.
Just like that, the rules of global finance, rules written in gold, were torn up on live television. Since the end of World War II, the US dollar had been the cornerstone of global trust. Every dollar in circulation represented a promise. It could be exchanged for gold. But with that single sentence, Nixon broke the link between money and reality. The dollar, once a certificate of value, became an idea, a belief, a piece of paper backed not by gold, but by hope. There were no explosions, no riots, just silence. Because the real lie wasn't loud, it was quiet, it was technical, and it worked. People still used their dollars. Prices didn't double overnight, but something invisible had shifted. The foundation had been pulled from beneath the global economy, and no one realized until it was too late. If you're starting to feel the weight of this story, subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning. In this video, we'll uncover how this moment reshaped inflation, debt, power, and the value of your money. This is the story of how the dollar became a lie. Chapter 2. The gold standard was never safe. It looked unbreakable, but the cracks were always there. For decades, the gold standard was worshipped like a religion. $1, one promise, 1 ounce of gold. It felt solid, eternal, untouchable. But beneath that illusion, cracks were forming. The gold standard had been breaking, slowly, quietly, long before Nixon ever spoke. The US had been printing more money than it had in gold since the 1950s. Wars, Reconstruction, foreign aid, and the booming American lifestyle, it all cost money. More money than Fort Knox could keep up with. By the 1960s, the world started noticing. Countries like France and West Germany began demanding actual gold for their dollars, testing whether America could really back its promise. Each time, US gold reserves shrank. America was bleeding gold, and fast. It was a slow-motion bank run, led by nations. The truth was out. There were too many dollars, and not enough gold. And the moment that trust cracked, it couldn't be repaired. The world had placed blind faith in a system that was never designed for global consumption. The gold standard wasn't broken by Nixon. It was already dying, and he just pulled the plug. This wasn't just economics. This was about power. How much America could print, borrow, and spend without consequences. The announcement shocked the world. Foreign leaders watched Nixon's speech, not with confusion, but with fury. To them, America had just broken the deal. For decades, the global economy had trusted the US to honor its promise. The dollars meant gold. But in one night, that promise was erased, unilaterally, without warning. France called it monetary treason. Britain scrambled to stabilize its reserves. Japan, Germany, and others realized they'd been holding paper, backed by nothing. The US had defaulted, not on debt, but on trust. And yet, the system didn't collapse. Why? Because even without gold, the world still needed dollars to trade, to buy oil, to survive. The US had played its cards so well that no one could walk away. Within months, countries floated their currencies. The era of fixed exchange rates was dead, and a new era had begun, one built on fiat money. Fiat means let it be done. Money that exists not because it's backed by something, but because the government says so. Nixon had turned the dollar into pure belief, and somehow the world went along with it. But belief is fragile, and what was born that day was a system that would grow, inflate, spiral, until one day it might break again.
And so to discuss with you some matter that I believe affect
Chapter
the
5.
energies.
The Age of Debt
In all
and
this
Endless
is
Printing. With the rules gone, a new game began, and it was dangerous. When Nixon cut the dollar's link to gold, he didn't just change the rules, he removed them. What followed was a new game, one where debt had no ceiling and money could be printed at will. In 1971, the U.S. national debt was around $400 billion. Today, it's over $34 trillion. And it's not just the U.S. Countries around the world followed suit, untethering their currencies and embracing the power to create money from nothing. At first, it seemed to work. Markets boomed, GDP rose, consumers borrowed freely, governments spent without hesitation. But behind the numbers, something darker was growing. Every time a crisis hit, a war, a recession, a pandemic, the same solution was used: print more money. It became addictive, a system that rewarded short-term growth over long-term stability. And like any addiction, the crash always comes later. The age of fiat didn't just bring flexibility. It brought inflation, asset bubbles, widening inequality, and a world economy built on promises instead of production. And the average citizen? They didn't see trillions. They just saw groceries get more expensive. Chapter 6. The invisible tax we all pay. It doesn't show up on your receipt, but it takes everything. When governments print money, they don't need your permission, but they still take something from you. It's called inflation, the silent thief. Your $100 buys less than it did yesterday. Your savings shrink, your rent rises, and you don't even know who to blame. That's the real cost of what happened in 1971. The day the dollar became a lie, and the world believed it. Inflation is the tax no one votes for. It doesn't show up on a paycheck or receipt. It happens slowly, like a tide rising in your wallet. And the system we live in now is built on it. A system where money is created with a keystroke. Banks lend what they don't have, and those closest to the printer always win. It's not just about economics, it's about power. Because the farther we drift from real value, the more unstable the system becomes. And when it breaks again, the people who caused it won't be the ones who pay. You will. You've just seen how one decision in 1971 changed everything, from global finance to the money in your pocket. But the story isn't over. It's happening right now, every day. And most people, they have no idea. If you want to keep uncovering the hidden moments behind money, power, and collapse, subscribe to this channel. We're just getting started. Because history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And the next verse is being written. The dollar may have lost its anchor, but the world didn't stop. It adapted, it inflated, and it forgot. But if you're watching this, you haven't forgotten. You're looking for the truth beneath the system. And that's exactly what this channel is about. Subscribe and keep uncovering the stories they never taught you. Because the next collapse always starts quietly.